Hello again, I'm Hex, and this is another installment of the PlayStation to Atari 5200 adapter devlog. It is September 3rd, 2010, and today we're going to talk about the connectors on the Atari 5200 and how I'm going to adapt to them. So here's just a quick look. That's an Atari 5200 4-port, and you can see that's the standard connector that they have on all the systems. I kind of have to work under the assumption that you will not modify those connectors willingly. I know I sure wouldn't. So there you go. I need to somehow come up with some way to connect tab A into slot B, tab A being the adapter. So when I did initial bench tests with the 5200, I was using just some regular potentiometers and the Pete's test cartridge and strained my back staring at the TV. So what I did is I took just a standard solder cup DB15 and stuck it in there, and it works just fine. It's not a great fit, but it's secure enough that you can get good contact and everything works out just fine. Now the problem is, from you can see here, is you need to have a back shell of some sort so you can pull these on and off. Otherwise you're just going to you're going to pull on the cable. Cable's going to break at a solder. The cable is going to break, and then you've got no contact, and nobody's happy then. So back shells come in multiple flavors and sizes. I actually got several different ones. This is the nicest one of the bunch, and it cost me a whopping $1.50 for this thing. Now the inside, same connector, really different color material, I suppose, but it has this little problem. It doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't have enough depth to go into the socket. So, and what it turns out is it's those little ears that are actually clipping it on and holding it in place. So I tried a couple of experiments. One was I chopped those ears off, I put bolts through backwards, and nothing really worked out. That has to be perfectly flush to get any meaningful contact here, otherwise it just falls off. So that was plan A. Plan A didn't work out so hot, so we went to Best Electronics and we asked them questions, and they really aren't in a space to help us for this project. Not because of anything, not that they're mean people or anything, it's just they didn't have the quantity I needed, nor did they actually have the right cables that I needed. I needed all 15 wires for at least one of these connections, and they don't have that. I actually would then need 5200 trackball cables, and gee, let's just make it that much more expensive. So I took a shot in the dark at a company called Dowco, and Dowco had these interesting Y cables, and I thought, oh, well, hey, that looks exactly like what I want. It has a nice length to it as far as the depth of the connection. It's molded, and everything. That's exactly what I want. But then I look at the inside, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but only 7 of those 15 wires are actually populated. And I tried cutting one open to see if I could do anything about it, and I can't pull this apart without both hands. It's just potted with essentially a white epoxy, or imagine almost a hot glue. So this isn't coming apart, and I'm not repinning this. It would just be crazy. So that was plan B out the window, or C, I guess, really. So I decided then I ought to ask an expert. So I went and bothered a mechanical engineer around here and said, hey, here's my problem. And he had at least made the suggestion, well, you need something with some jack screws in those ears, and I bet you could bolt through those and secure it that way. And I thought, oh, well, that's a novel idea. So I did some hunting around, and I did find a connector that met that criteria. This guy is DB15, has threaded holes on both sides, so I can use number 4 machine screws. The problem is that this is not a solder cup. That's just a straight pin that's supposed to mount in a circuit board. How inconvenient. So I didn't want to solder wires onto that. That just wasn't going to work out. So I decided then to spin another board. So I made this teeny tiny board, and it's just essentially adapts these pins onto there, and then I can put a cable onto it as well. So the way I just got done fabbing one of these, which is why I'm actually kind of excited that this is working out as well as it has, is I put the cable on, and I'm just going to use Cat 5 stranded core, or stranded wire Cat 5. So 8 conductors, one of them gets unused out of 2 lengths, not a problem. And Cat 5 is pretty affordable too, and comes in a variety of fun colors. So this fits on there like that, and there'll be cables. There's essentially a cable on the bottom and a cable on the top. I solder those on first, then I solder the connector on, and then I put screws in to hold this guy in place. And I thought, oh, okay, that's going to work out nicely. And I did a test fit, and it works well. And you're asking, well, hey, what about the back shell? Well, the back shell goes on the board, so it grips the circuit board. And so I reach, and you see other junk that you aren't here to see. So I did this. And there's actually another piece that I did here that I changed. So the back shell actually will snap onto the circuit board and grip it. So the actual connector just stands away, and this is actually a really nice fit. What I also noticed was on these connectors is you see these little metal tabs on them, and those pry up real easy, and actually can get a little bit more length of and a bit more play in the connector when I attach it to the 5200. How I'm going to do this, and of course what happens is I take that this shell away, this shield, and then the screws, or the nuts that actually are involved here, now have the ability to just flop out. So now I've got to actually put something back there, and I was doing that anyway, so it works out nicely. And I'll use some Loctite to make sure those never go anywhere again. So once they're done, we have toast. So this is just my first attempt. I actually used solid core Cat 5 for this experiment. So puts it in there, tab A goes into slot B, provided I put it in right side up, and it's secure. Well, if I push it in all the way. There, now it's secure. Now you can see I'm tugging on the cable, and there, it comes out. And I now have a nice way to grip it, and enough mechanical stability to go around that I'm not going to rip the wires out, or I'm not going to rip the connector clean apart just because I'm angry because I died in Pac-Man. So yeah, this was actually a nice little win as far as I'm concerned. Sorry about the bad camera work, I'm kind of fumbling here. That's really it for this. Now this is at just the joystick end that goes into the console. The mate, because I am not going to be in a position to add a keypad just because of cost issues and space issues, and I really don't want to mess with it, and I'm not going to mess with a shift function on the controller. So I found these approximations to the 5200 connectors, and they're pretty close. The only difference is this doesn't have, and you definitely can't see it in the footage, if you have a 5200, look closely at the connector and you'll notice there's holes in the bottom and the top of the connector, and those are so that it snaps in place and it actually gets some more mechanical grip there. And this doesn't have that. In fact, when I put a proper 5200 joystick cable into this, it fits and it will actually stay and you get good contact, but it kind of flexes this shell a bit. So what I may do is just use a Dremel and notch out those 3 areas where those snaps exist, so it just goes in and will be fine. That's about it for this part of the connection. And of course, if we get around to making a D-pad or a digital pad that's actually a replacement or an equivalent, it'll mate up with this and it'll be fine as well. So that's pretty much it for this. This was actually a lot more work than it took me to actually describe it. The best thing of all was for these little boards was I got these from a company called Batch PCB, and it's run by a company called Spark Fund, and these guys sell you boards by the square inch, and one square inch minimum. So these weren't too expensive, and then they sent me more than I actually ordered, but didn't charge me for more than I actually ordered. I really can't complain about that. So I ordered 10, and I got like 23. So I'm thrilled. I mean, there's nothing to these boards. It's just pads and pads. So yeah, that's it. And thank you.